All right, everyone. Welcome to the STOA Vibecamp. Looking forward. So those of you who are here or watching the STOA's YouTube channel and do not know what this Vibecamp thing is, it's a pretty cool and original experiment that started over on Twitter with people who were vibing with one another there and collectively decided to bring those vibes to an in-person gathering called Vibecamp. And today we have Brooke and Alex with us from Vibecamp. And they're going to do a presentation, a brief talk to get a sense of what this is and make some delicious announcements of what is next. So how today is going to work, I'm going to take in Brooke and Alex in a moment. And they're going to do a presentation and then we'll just pivot to some Q&A. And then I think Alex will be leading some breakout rooms. So yeah. That being said, I'll take in Brooke and Alex and welcome back to the STOA. But you can unmute yourself, I believe.
All right, thanks everybody so much for showing up. This is super exciting. So Vibecamp ended up being a 2-night event outside of Austin, 2022. Just a few months ago, we were at a children's summer camp. So we had some activities there that were just part of the camp there. And then we also had a lot of content that was brought by attendees. Most of the content was brought by attendees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through a fairly unpolished little set of slides here. Mostly just kind of like talking about the inception of it, kind of just do a little like history of how that went and how it got started. All right, so that's our little sign that they made for us. People came in on buses. We organized transportation. It was Friday to midday Sunday. That's when people showed up. So at the beginning of it, if everybody can hear me okay, see the screen okay? Yeah, cool. So Grounded Sage tweeted in July of 2021, dreaming of a multi-day in-group festival with capacity in the thousands. And I saw that and quote tweeted it, like, who wants to plan this out with me? And in the course of that, I think one other tweet, I pulled together an early team. We began meeting weekly. And initially I had something in mind that was a lot more like a convention than a festival. I had all these ideas. I was going to be, we were going to book speakers and all this stuff. And yeah, as it goes on, these are all some of my ideas for it. We did end up having workshops, but most of this other stuff got scrapped because it turned out Twitter wanted something more informal. Twitter wanted to just vibe. And this is one part of it, though, that we did end up sticking with. See if I can read it. My main interest is to try to capture the diversity of this place, not just a meetup for rationalists or for people into mindfulness. My favorite thing about this place, meaning this part of Twitter, is running across ideas or kinds of people I wouldn't be exposed to in a bubble. Although we are still sort of a bubble, but I don't know that. I want to try to bring that to life if possible. And I feel like that's one of the things we were really successful at. There was a huge range of different kinds of in-groups, different subcultures, different political interests there. And that was really, really cool to see. And this was still when we were calling this part of Twitter TCOT for this quarter of Twitter. And my pre-rationalists wanted TCOTCon. That was the suggestion for the name. That was the one that I liked. But throughout the course of this, just like I scrapped the convention idea when it became clear that that wasn't where people's interests were, we went with Vibecamp. Vibecamp was suggested by Grin, and that's just overwhelmingly what people wanted. So that was our name, and that was when Bowman dropped this. He created this little banner for us that I believe is still up on our website. And so Fry in September tweeted, something underappreciated about this part of Twitter is how many people have mad skills at stuff IRL, writing, music, science, parenting, art, coding. There's a big talent pool that's come together for whatever this is. And that's why I haven't really had any doubts about bringing Vibecamp to life. The talent is all here, just needed a direction. And that's something that I feel like has just been borne out over and over again with Vibecamp. Whenever we needed information about something, expertise on something, the people are either there or they know who to contact for it. And so that's part of what Vibecamp was an experiment in, is trying to draw this talent together and use it to make all of our lives better. We early on created a Discord server that didn't have much activity initially. We also created a Twitter account. We started an Indiegogo campaign. We used that Indiegogo campaign just from crowdfunding to support, I believe it was like 10%. We ended up having 10 people there. It was 418, including the org team, and roughly 40 of those attendees came because of donations from the community. Their tickets were comped. That was a really cool thing. And during the time when we were looking for a location, we used that time to build infrastructure. We would tweet things like this: Vibecamp is hiring. We found a couple more people to fill roles on our team through that. We would tweet sometimes if we wanted to find information about locations. Sylvia created a logo. This is one of the early designs, and just through the course of conversations under that thread, ended up refining it and creating the new one that we still have. And well, I want to show it, but I've got it tattooed. A couple of our attendees also got it tattooed, which is really cool. It's just this whole thing has been such a collaborative process with the whole community. Colby was the one who coordinated content at the event. We did a lot of that through Twitter, but most of it was through our Discord server. Anybody creating events of their own, I highly recommend using Discord to kind of get core people together, get them talking. It's a lot more possible to, it's a lot easier, I guess, maybe to create, you can create channels where you can discuss like one particular idea in more depth. And it's not quite as easily lost as threads are to the wind a little bit. And we had people in the server just went above and beyond with creating things. These were our badges. That was just done by a team of people who wanted to see it there. The organizers themselves had nothing to do with badges. Our MO for attendee content was kind of, what do you need from us to make this happen? And these people, that's one of my favorite parts of the lead up to Vibecamp, was just watching the badges people. I mean, they went so in depth. They were posting charts of what size pixels you could read at different distances. They went all out, and that ended up being, I think, one of the main kind of benefit, like features of Vibecamp, was that we had these badges there. People could put faces to Abby's a little bit easier, and they also had talking points on them to help with some of the more introverted attendees. I saw one guy who was still wearing his badge 2 weeks later at an ACX meetup. He just thought it was easier because a lot of Twitter people were there, just to be like, this is who I am on Twitter. So that was something that was also really cool. And one of the main things I think that made Vibecamp kind of an unexpected success was the power of memes. So I'm just going to go through a few of them really quickly. This is one chain of them. A bunch of people did their own little versions of how I imagined Vibecamp, which really built up a lot of the mystery, the intrigue behind the event. We even had a lot of people who just, even up to a few days, even after Vibecamp, who was like, wait, Vibecamp is real? Is this real? People thought it was kind of like this big joke because it really became a meme. So we had a few more of those. There were other things like this. The more I read about this Vibecamp thing, the more I'm sure you'll be watching a deep dive video about it in 3 years, just really building up the intrigue. We didn't have to do any of that on our own. People just, it was such like a weird idea. People just took it and went with it. What shapes you bringing to the Vibecamp Tizzle's shape rotation workshop? That one was kind of funny because that was posted in January, and there actually was a shape rotation workshop, and I believe Rune was in the audience for it, unbeknownst to the speaker, which was pretty funny for people who aren't in the know on that. That was Rune is kind of behind the whole shape rotation meme. So I think it was pretty neat for people just to see the people who had created these memes, people they'd been interacting with for so long on the internet, all coming together and just having fun together. These are just a few more of the memes, and then there were some that were maybe not so good. This is one. If anybody doesn't recognize that, that's a reference to Squid Games, I believe. People also reference Firefest. People reference Jonestown even. And all of it really helped build hype. There was very little that was bad advertising for us. It was really, really interesting sort of social experiment to watch the way that memes could do so much more than we could ever do as an individual team of people to build this event. This is another one, and it's okay that I'm posting tweets with foul language in them. People getting together before Vibecamp, making their own memes together in real life, which is a really cool crossover, again, along the theme of bringing digital life into the real life sphere. And then it was actually commented on by a bunch of people after the event that there were very, very few phones out. There was, I think the vast majority of people really respected anonymity. They respected that this was a place for us to really meet in real life and kind of like leave the digital behind for a little bit. So there really aren't very many pictures that came out of Vibecamp. There are very few. Like here are just a couple. We were staying at cabins. It's a beautiful sunset there. Some more of the cabins. People went kayaking. And there's a cool little one on the vibe blanket outside a cabin. And then this is one of the events that was there was a workshop where people could draw their own tarot cards, which I thought was one of the really cool things that came out of Vibecamp. I think that's somebody working on one there. This is one that was an image from it that was tweeted that I thought was really, really great. Ecstatic Femme drew that one. And then Aubrey Fire is the one who ran that workshop. And I has taken orders for those. And I think they are still on the way out now, but there is a tarot deck now that came from people's art who are just part of this community. And yeah, that's my little presentation, just giving a little bit of backstory. Now I figure out how to turn off my screen share. Grin, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Grin. Am I the only one that can't hear?
No, I can't hear him either.
Yeah, your audio. You're off.
Now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes. I would say thanks for presenting that, Brooke. I think you did a great job of highlighting how this was not like an event that we made for people. It was an event that everyone made together at every step of the way. And I think that was key to why people liked it so much. You know, when you go to like a concert, you could be like, oh, you know, I liked it, I didn't like it, whatever. But when you participate in making something, it feels so much more like it's yours. That's what I would add.
And you guys have some announcements? Do you want to do that near the end, or you want to do it now, or pivot to Q&A? Like, how would you like to play this?
We can do that now. So I think this is what most people are here for. We have picked out a location. We're going to a new spot. We are not going to go to the same place outside of Austin for 2023. We're going to be in Maryland. We found a location, Maryland. We found a location that will allow us, some of the restrictions at the place that we did initially were we couldn't play music after a certain time at night. People couldn't swim without lifeguards. So there were some restrictions. And this new site that we found is going to have a lot less in the way of site-provided activities. But you could swim anytime you want. You could play music throughout the night. We think it's going to be a much better fit for Vibecamp. And it's also mixed use. So there will be cabins and also tents. So people, I know that was one of the complaints last time, is that people wanted, the cabins wasn't really a good fit for everyone. So now people will be able to have a little bit more range with how they can stay there. It's going to be the weekend of June 17th in Maryland. We're probably going to do 3 nights, and we are looking at like soft launch for tickets at the end of July. And those are going to roll out first. We're going to do tent camping first, and those are going to roll out to attendees of Vibecamp 1. We really want to reward the people who took a risk on us, because it was a risk. You know, we were completely unknown entities. We were, you know, we didn't have any trust in the community. People were kind of just like taking a big chance, and we want to reward that. It's going to be the weekend of June. Did I say July? June 17th. For probably 3 nights.
Anything like
Tickets
that?
go on sale at the end of July. Is going to be the soft launch for attendees of Vibecamp 1, and we are going to roll things out to a wider community after that point. And that's just going to be for tent camping. We are still kind of working out some details on how to do the cabins. We are aware that having people be able to choose their cabin mates was a really big part of the experience of Vibecamp. And we are kind of figuring out how to do that when there are mixed use tickets. So we're still kind of working on that end, but the cabin tickets will go on sale probably publicly after the soft launch of mixed, like the tent camping at the end of July. Jody, you wanted to add to that, Grin?
Yeah, we haven't nailed down all the exact details, like when tickets will go on sale or how they'll work. That's one of the things we're trying to figure out. But yeah, so what Brooke said is like, this is our best idea. We have the dates. We don't have exactly, I think, the dates for when tickets go on sale.
If you went to Vibecamp 1 but don't want a tent, when can you get a ticket? Yeah, we don't have the dates nailed down for that, because we still have some decisions to make. One thing that we've been considering is allowing people to buy out entire cabins. so that way they can be with friends. We haven't fully decided whether or not we're going to do that yet. But that's just one of the things that we have been tossing around as an idea. These cabins have, again, like our last site, has a range of capacity. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to make ticketing fair, but then also give people the kind of experience they want with being able to choose their cabin mates and things like that.
Yeah, I would say the vibe is going to be a little bit different. The location that you have the event changes the things that happen there. So having the event at a summer camp versus having the event at a place that's not a summer camp, that's more like a space where you can do whatever you'd like with, is going to feel a little bit different. So if you went to the first Vibecamp and you're expecting like exactly the same experience, it's not going to be exactly the same. We'll have to figure out how to use the new space in a way that fits us best.
Do you know what the closest airports are, Grin? I'm pretty sure Philadelphia is one, and there was one other.
Yeah, Philly and Baltimore are about equidistant. So I would say they're each about an hour away, maybe a little bit more. So you can take your pick, which city you like. I think probably we're going to help people kind of coordinate around one. One of the great things about the last Vibecamp was like the pre and post hanging out, which was not at the camp itself, it was in Austin. People rented out Airbnbs, people threw parties, and there was a lot of that happening, and people like that basically as much as the event itself. So since there's no one clear city here, it's kind of between Baltimore and Philly, I think will help people coordinate around which is the city where most people will end up. And maybe that'll help you decide which one you want to fly into.
That's unfortunate. I'm sorry, Sarah. Sarah says, oh, dang, those dates overlap with a huge psychedelic science conference in Colorado. That is unfortunate. But and someone else asked why Baltimore. I'm not sure I can answer that question. I don't know the geography of East Coast very well. But yeah, as far as dates go, we really wanted to make it in June. The site seems pretty perfect. But we got so lucky with weather in the last Vibecamp. It was, I don't know, 40, 50 degrees and raining all the way up until like the day before Vibecamp. And then we had this brief window of perfect weather. And then it went back to really cold and rainy. And that was in Texas, but we want to leave that less up to chance. We got really lucky last time, and we think it's a lot more likely the weather will be good if we do this in June than if we did it in May. And yeah, so the site, Grin, do you remember details about the site? I know that there are. Wait, why don't you say what you remember, then I'll.
Sure, and I can try and find a map of it too if I can share the screen. The site it's like in the woods, kind of away from everything. There's an area that has the cabins. The cabins are all kind of near each other in one place, whereas at Vibecamp at Austin, they were kind of in two separate spots. There's a big field for the tents and the camping, and there's a bunch of like smaller buildings that are more like activities buildings. There's a pool. There's couple others. I can try and find a map, Brooke, if you want to talk about what you remember, and then I can share a screen of the map.
Yeah, so they said that they've got a big barn that you can do music in. They also have said that they have done music festivals with capacity in the thousands. Oh, sorry, it's very loud in my house. And so we're not going to have any problem with an event our size with playing music all night. So that I know some people are going to be very happy about that. They're going to have a lot fewer, just, they will have staff on site to do food. So that's another thing that we're going to be carrying over from the last event. But beyond that, they're not going to be like facilitated activities. So there's going to be a lot more on the attendees and on the organizers ourselves to make sure that there are things for people to do. Although honestly, I think a lot of the magic of Vibecamp came from just connections, from people meeting their friends that they talked to online for ages and never met in person, or making new connections. I was really pleased at the number of lurkers that had a blast at Vibecamp and talked about wanting to start posting more. Following too many people, I didn't really check up on those people afterwards to see if they really did start posting. But overall, it felt like the magic. Yeah, the magic was really in not so much in the activities, although that was a big part of it. It was just people getting together. The activities are kind of an excuse to get together.
Here, I can show you a map of what it looks like. So I actually have two maps to share. So this is a map from another event that happens in the same place, but it looks a lot cooler than the official map. So this is what I'll show you. So up here at the top, this is basically the cabins where people stay. And then this on the left side where it says escape room, that's kind of where you come in. That's check-in, most likely. This is also subject to change when we get there. But I think that, so this is the check-in area. This in the middle is kind of the activities area. There's the pool. There's like big rooms for dancing. You see they say karaoke. Down here, I believe is the food area, the dining hall, but also, again, probably dancing area if we move the tables out of the way. Here's activities, and then this is kind of the woods. I think you can set up some kind of like things here that are more out of the way. And yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. If you want to see an actual map, this is a more realistic map of what it looks like, but you can see it's a lot more boring this way. So I didn't want to show you guys this.
Grin, did you want to talk a little bit about some of the other projects that people are working on?
You mean like the Vibecamp related projects?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's kind of a bunch of things going on that it's not directly Vibecamp related, but is more kind of in the Vibecamp community. Because when people got together at Vibecamp, they met each other, they also realized, hey, we have a lot of the same interests, we're working on some of the similar things, and they kind of carried those relationships forward to continue to work on stuff. I think there's people who are working on like creating things for the community. So things like a calendar of events so that we can put all these events in one place. And if somebody's throwing a house party or just getting people together, maybe going to the park, they can put that all on one calendar. There are people working on creating like tools for people to find each other, to work on projects together. There's people working on funding those projects. I know, I forgot his name, but there was a guy who recently announced his plan to do like micro grants. He did a grant for the wilderness, and he's planning to do a few other ones. And there's a bunch of people working in this space again who kind of didn't know that there were also others, and then met those others together. Am I forgetting some? There's a bunch of them. I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
Yeah, specifically, I was showing some of the things Scott's working on with us on our team. He wasn't able to make it here today, but he when I asked him for a blurb about the things he's working on, he basically said, just as Vibecamp was kind of partially an experiment to let me see what he said exactly. Experiment in new ways of living together and finding people to do that with. We're working on extending towards working together and supporting people and reaching creative goals. So he's got a few things. He's very busy right now, but he really is focusing on helping people with mentorship. We're also happy to hop on calls with people who are running their own events. One of the cool things about Vibecamp is kind of like started this movement downstream of all these people doing their own meetups, which is really something we want to encourage and help facilitate as much as possible. So if anybody's doing their own events and wants to have like I'm happy to do weekly calls. We're happy to give advice. I have finally started working on my document, which going through detailing our process and what worked and what didn't. That has been fairly slow going, but it is actually being worked on now, and we will publish that when it is done. We want to do whatever we can to help people just find success as people and as a community. So if anybody has anything they want to work on with us or has any ideas for that, just feel free to reach out. And yes, that is the correct address. We had kind of more or less decided to not make public the location of the site until we get a better idea of how check-in is going to work, but you are correct, Josh. That is the address. No, it's fine. Yeah, we did that last time and it wasn't really a problem. I don't see it really being a problem this time. So I think it'll be fine. Yeah, we are going to probably do some work to coordinate, have something in the server probably, which we are going to update soon. Maybe people can look for ride shares in a channel. We're still going to also offer some form of transportation. It's a little bit trickier since there are multiple large airlines that are airports that service this area. But we will figure out a way to help with transportation, whether that's a shuttle coming from a train station or actual buses to the airport again. We're going to work on that. And then we also want to help encourage people to help facilitate people finding rides, because I know that a lot of people on the East Coast will be able to drive. We asked another question, maybe adding more people to your logistical team. We probably not at the moment. I think we have enough people to at least get started. We may be adding people on as we go if we need to. Right now, we're still at a point where none of us are getting paid for this. So adding people on the team is kind of hard because it is still strictly a volunteer basis. But we definitely want to start supporting people more in the community. Hopefully including ourselves, but I really want to help. I want to be able to pay some of the people who did a lot of nobody, Netrunner Nobody on Twitter did so much work for the badges, and he's working on an app for everybody to use on site next year. And I really want to be able to pay people for their contracting work. So that's something we're planning on doing once we do. So max attendance. We were just Brandon, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I would add that this is, like we said at the beginning, right? This is something that we've created together. So while we're not planning to add anyone to the logistical team, we do want to work with everybody to make something. If you have an idea or to make the event happen, if there's something you really want to do, whether it's logistics or an event or whatever, we want to help you do that. We want to work with you. We'll provide you with whatever resources the site has or we have. It could be speakers or a slot on the schedule, or we can coordinate with people. So I don't see a clear distinction between logistical team and attendees. There's kind of a gradient there, and you can put yourself wherever on that gradient you want. So I think of it as we're making it together. And if you have something you want to do, yes, we love that.
Yeah, that was a great addition. Thank you, Grin. And actually, that kind of ties in. I just saw that Colby is in the audience. I don't know if Colby's up for this, but Colby, if you want to come up and talk a little bit, he's the one who kind of coordinated all the content. He's going to be moving forward in that same capacity again. So if you want to, Colby, just let us know, and maybe you can come up and talk a little bit about your plans for next year and what people can start doing if if they have content in mind that they want to bring to the next Vibecamp. And in the meantime, we had a question from Christian: what's the max attendance? So this is going to be a site where, unlike our last location, there is no site enforced hard cap, at least that I know of. So this is, again, kind of a tricky balancing act where we want to grow the event. We want to bring new people in the community. We want to bring Vibecamp to more people, but we also don't want to exceed our own capacity. So we're still kind of nailing that down. It will be larger than the last event, but we're not going to go crazy big for this next one. We want to kind of relatively slowly grow our wings with this. Ticket cost is going to be, and we are already going, and we're planning on doing 3 nights. That was one bit of feedback we got from attendees of the first one. I feel a lot of people were just really settling in to feeling comfortable with the people around them, getting used to the idea of hanging out with internet people. People really just starting to get into the swing of it by the second night, and then all of a sudden, noon the next day, you had to leave. So we are already going to do one more night, which is one more full day of food stuff. It's going to be more than last time for the ticket cost. It is going to be an extra night. And we haven't decided the exact price yet. I'm not sure. Do you think we're ready to give a ballpark run?
Yeah, I'm not sure because there's a bunch of stuff we have to figure out in terms of transportation and food and like how much we're going to try and subsidize tickets. It's ticketing and the process of selling tickets and getting like all that stuff is probably our biggest thing that we're working on right now. There's a lot of questions around how that ties into the values of Vibecamp. How do we make it so that as many people can come as possible, but also not so many people that we, can't provide a good experience for everybody. So we're overwhelmed. And how do we sell those tickets? How do we make sure that it's a fair process, but it's also a process that is sustainable, and it's a process that like gets everyone in who wants to come. So this has been probably the last 3 or 4 meetings. This is like the main thing we've talked about. And I don't want to say, we're doing one or the other thing until we really figured it out.
Yeah, we are still, I mean, we were completely making everything up as we went for the first one, and we are still kind of making everything up as we go. There isn't a whole lot of precedent for these kinds of events. And, maybe we'll be able to help establish something, at least for us, over time, but it really is experimentation. We are trying new things out. We're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and we will improve over time.
So it might be a good time to pivot to breakout rooms. Maybe I'll take in Jen in a moment. And if you have any other questions, I imagine Brooke and Jen could respond via Twitter or elsewhere. Yeah, before I put people in the breakout rooms, maybe if you can put on your name, just have you been to Vibecamp before on your Zoom names, just so we have a sense, or you're planning to go on the next one, so you can indicate that, because there's some people in the room probably they're just like plugging into this thing for the first time. Would you like to kind of set the frame or the question to seed the groups in? Oh, and if you have to slip out now, feel free to slip out now if you don't want to participate in the breakout room. Grin, would you like to seed the group with the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, we're gonna break up into small groups. I would ask that when we do, maybe go in alphabetical order in your group and say, your name, where you're from, and maybe spend a minute talking about something that you really like to do. Like maybe it could be work or outside of work, but something that is would be your hobby. You would do it if you weren't paid for it. And then for the main question, what we're hoping you might be interested in talking about, and something we're definitely interested in, is what would you like to see at the next Vibecamp, or what event would you like to go to? Even if you're not planning to go yourself, you can think about, if I were there, what is this thing I'd want to do? Especially think about something that maybe only you would be able to come up with, like something that's unique to you. It's totally fine if it's niche or like something only you care about, you don't think anyone else cares about. That's great. Actually, those were some of the best events at Vibecamp. And yeah, spend some time talking about that, maybe toss some ideas around. And I would ask the person who goes first in your group to maybe take some notes on ideas you hear. And when we get back together, it might be fun to share some of those and hear what people came up with.
All right. So anything like to add to that, Brooke, before I put people into the breakout rooms?
No, I think that sounds good.
Cool. What is it? 12 minutes? 15 minutes? What do you think, Grin?
Yeah, let's do 15 minutes. And then we'll get back together and chat a little more.
Cool. All right, so just hanging tight. I'm gonna put people in rooms in a moment.